to preserve documents, correct? That's
Not just IT, but yes, IT helps me preserve documents.
You have your own internal preservation system?
For HR files, for various different things. Yeah,
You do?
Old school. Keep the HR files in the closet.
Okay. You explained to us that you know how to go to IT if you need to, correct?
Sure do.
Okay.
And this is Tashika. I'm including you in this email as well. This may be something that you and I discussed.
I'm not asking you about this document.
You said IT. That's an example of IT. I'm sorry.
Was it, if you know how to go to IT if you need to?
That's an example of it, that document.
So you know how to go to IT if you need to?
Tashika, I need you.
Okay. And you did elevate my request to IT once you got the subpoena, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Are we talking about the IT within the district attorney's office, or we're talking about IT from Fulton County? Because they're two separate.
Any IT.
I agree. I'd love to know the answer to the question, Ms. Monroe.
When you got my subpoena, that's when you first elevated my request to IT, correct?
When I got your subpoena, that is when I elevated your subpoena request to IT because it had the required information to fill out my matrix. So that's when I did that. Yes.
Before that, you had never elevated any of my requests to IT, correct?
I cannot say that. I don't know. Because
you
again,
fill out the ticket, right?
it's you. There's certain, you're assuming that I am dealing with 100% of open records. I'm not. So I cannot tell you in the many open records requests that you gave if a ticket was elevated. I cannot tell you. What it appears is that you requested critical mention. It appears that my staff handled this. It in this exhibit that you admitted, it does not say that I am aware of anything in here.
Can you turn that off? I'm not asking you.
Oh, okay. So as always, I can't answer that question because again, of the totality, a lot of them don't come to me. Only certain things are elevated to me. And here's the thing. You told me that I gave those 44 documents to someone else. That someone else never came to me, right, and said there's a problem, just like you never came to me and told me there was a problem.
My question was,
okay,
did you go to IT on any of my requests prior to the subpoena?
Dexter Bond, I don't believe I did, except for the subpoena.
Okay. And there is a record if you did go to IT, correct? There's a ticket.
There's a matrix form that I would have filled out.
Okay.
Or someone from my staff would have filled out.
So if you had elevated any of my requests to IT, there would be some evidence of that, correct?
If my staff had enough to fill out that particular matrix, there should be a matrix filled out because that's how IT operates.
And in this case, I mean, you had talked about IT taking a very long time to produce documents. Is that, you mentioned something about that?
IT's practices takes a long time for native forms.
Okay. In this case, though, well, and I'll ask IT that. You testified that rule number 1, you said, is pick up the phone, right?
Rule number 1 is pick up the phone. Let's communicate. What I've learned, if there's bumps and bruises, you need to communicate because that heals bumps and bruises. Because if you don't communicate, you end up in a courthouse.
You didn't do that with my request, though, correct?
I testified yesterday that I will not talk to you personally. I testified to you that I won't talk to you. I emailed you and let you know, do not talk to me. I told you on the record, and I'm going to tell you again, that I find you disingenuous. I find you very misleading, and I do not trust the way that you practice law. You do so in a way that's not filled with integrity. The Open Records Act do not.
Mr. Bond, I understand that you have strong feelings about Ms. Merchant.
Thank you. Sorry.
You've communicated them clearly.
Sorry.
But I need you to actually just answer her question, which is, did you communicate with her about, I think your question was, did you, Mr. Bond, communicate with Ashleigh Merchant about the nature or scope of her requests?
On January 26th, I wrote you a letter.
And my question was just based on your number 1 rule, pick up the phone, if you did that with me. That's all I asked. Did you do that with me?
No.
Thank you. Yesterday, at the end of the day, you told the court that you had never seen the subpoena from September 13th, from last Friday. You said you'd never seen that. You didn't receive it. Do you remember saying that?
That's exactly what I said, because I didn't.
Okay. Today, when Ms. Monroe was asking you questions, you said that the reason you provided her confidentiality agreements was in response to a subpoena and how I worded a subpoena, correct? I mean, that's what you told her a few minutes ago.
Yes, that's probably what I said. Yes.
Okay. And that's the exact same subpoena that you got on September 13th, correct?
I didn't get a subpoena on the 13th. Maybe she got the subpoena on the 13th and she told me, but I didn't get a subpoena on the 13th. On that Friday, I didn't get a subpoena. I wasn't here. So I know I didn't get a subpoena on the 13th. Okay. And I know yesterday was the first day that I received the subpoena that you gave me after me asking you 2 times what subpoena you're talking about. And then finally you gave me a subpoena. I also know that subpoena that on your first subpoena, I was listed on Exhibit A. I was not listed on an Exhibit A, and I told the court very, very clearly something's wrong with that subpoena. So any other questions as it relates to that subpoena that I didn't get on September 13th?
Yes.
Keep going.
When was the first time you saw that subpoena?
When you handed it to me.
Yes.
With my name on it, that was the first time I saw that subpoena. You handed it to me right here, and immediately I said, I did not get that subpoena.
So when Ms. Monroe asked you about providing the confidentiality documents, you testified that you did that in response to the language I used in the subpoena, correct?
That's not testimony yet. That's exactly what I said.
Okay. And that subpoena, so those confidentiality agreements I got on Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the subpoena, you said you just saw it for the first time yesterday.
That with my name on it, that subpoena was my first time on Friday. Now, however, my staff received your subpoena on Friday. I forwarded that subpoena to counsel on Friday. Counsel then said, hey, we have another subpoena, which I was not listed on the Exhibit A. So I assumed it had nothing to do with me. And at that moment, I said, hey, this subpoena is different from the second subpoena open records request. And then that's why I said, you need confidentiality agreements. So no, if you're talking about the subpoena with my name on it, dated September 13th, my testimony is that I did not receive it. Let's be very clear. Until yesterday. If your question is, did I see the subpoena that was for someone else because it was emailed to me and I gave it to counsel and I was able to talk to counsel? Yes, I did do that. But the subpoena with my name on it that required documents, I did not get until yesterday.
All I'm asking is the subpoena, the September 13th subpoena.
With my name on it or no? Because there are multiple September 13th subpoenas.
I'm happy to.
So, I think I'm sorry, this is not an official objection, but in hearing Ms. Merchant's representation of what I questioned him about, that is not accurate. I did not talk to Mr. Bond as a result of a subpoena.
Hang on.
I can withdraw it.
Is an objection. That's she's mischaracterizing his.
Right.
She's mischaracterizing his prior testimony.
Right. But I do know, I realize I missed the timing for that objection. So that's why I'm saying it's not an objection, but it was because I didn't hear, I wasn't able to process what she was saying. I was actually looking back at my notes, and that's not what he testified to. So if the court would allow my objection, albeit untimely, to object to the recharacterization of my testimony, if the court reporter could read back what I asked him, it was not my conversation as it pertains to those confidentiality agreements were not pursuant to a subpoena. It was pursuant to this action and trying to get this action resolved because it was brought to my attention that Mrs. Merchant was needing of these NDAs, and I was trying to get those documents to her.
Okay. That y'all can continue to disagree. I heard the testimony. I heard, I think that everybody is talking at cross purposes, right? I'm going to let you ask your question, Ms. Merchant. Your objection is noted for the record, Ms. Monroe, but I don't know that it changes the outcome of this questioning, except that I would appreciate it if we could get clarity.
I'm done. I can withdraw it. It's fine. The subpoena's on the record. Thank you, Judge.
Okay.
No other question.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, and generally my practice when I have a few questions is, in case I mess up all of your brilliant crosses and directs, to give you an opportunity to follow up on any questions that I ask. A couple of things that I was interested in, Mr. Bond, that I don't think I heard, and I apologize to the lawyers if they asked you. So when you get a request and then it's closed, right? What is the process or decision making that goes into closing a request that's received?
Once we give a request, responsive document, or we comply with the Open Records Act, my 24-hour guru will upload it. And once she lets the portal know that it's closed. However, in the event that something is closed, you have an opportunity via the portal to, continue to converse. So,
Okay. And so, so when you, one of these requests, you had made a point of noting that it was, and I'm not referring to a specific one, but there were a couple that you were like, you asked me for 5 things in this one request, in this, paragraph that was written. What is your process for saying, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have documents for this, documents for this. Like, how do you do that? How do you identify, have I looked for documents that are this item? Have I looked for, tell me a little bit about that process.
So a lot of times it's communication. Okay. Well, hold on. Out of 100 cases,
right,
a lot of times, probably 75%, I'm looking for a specific thing.
Right.
I'm looking for a specific case. So it's very rare that I get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
I get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from certain people.
Right. And when you say your staff,
my staff
also has, but also like Ms. Willingham or someone, she has the ability to pick up. Does she have the authority to pick up the phone and call someone who requests and say, is this what you're asking for?
But unfortunately, there's certain people she cannot.
No, okay. I totally understand. Just like there's certain types of requests that would be elevated and certain types that wouldn't.
But yes, if it's a simple form, hey, I want invoice 102.3. That's one of our purchasing. Give me an invoice, give me a number. She knows exactly, hey, you said any and all. This may take some time. Do you want to narrow it down? Let me tell you what I do have access to. So she has complete authority to make contact for specific items. Okay. Right? As it relates to things where, hey, I don't know what this particular document is. She has authority to call various different staff members. Do you know what's going on? Who is this? So she has authority to make some calls, but she has authority not to call some other people as well.
Okay. There's been a lot of discussion about IT. I'm still not sure I'm clear on the extent to which there is a Fulton County District Attorney's Office IT and what authority or what's within their organizational control and structure versus Fulton County's IT department. With full disclosure to everybody that, of course, I also have to, ask questions of the Fulton County IT department sometimes to make my email work, for example. So
I like that example, email work. I got 4 people staffed to my IT department. It was 4 reduced staff. If something's wrong with your computer, something's wrong with your phone, something's wrong with any app, you call your IT department. That's internal. Sometimes they're a second layer. Hey, I know who people are strong on technology. In the event that I need my IT department to stand over Jeff DeSantis' shoulder to make sure that he's using the search tools right, I'm going to call my IT department. With the understanding, if you're looking for specific emails, I can do so for maybe a year. I know my email goes back to a year. I have a lot of emails. If you're looking for anything beyond that, then I'll call the county IT department. They can go into archives. They can do things in native form. They can do things with, contracts, and they have the capacity to do things on an AML list. They have those things.
Okay. And then what do you do about, let's say you, for example, this list that's been requested, right? And I understand your position that there is not such a list that exists that has the names of all the attorneys that work for the DA and their dates of hire. I understand that. To what extent, when you receive, and we can use that as an example, but my question is intended to be broader.
I understand.
If you have something that that is partially responsive, like let's say there's a list of everybody, of all the attorneys that work for the DA, but it doesn't have dates of hire on it. How do you determine when you will try to make an incomplete response or something like that?
All right. First, rule number 1, I get on the phone. Hey, I don't have that list. Let me tell you what I do have. Do you want hire dates? The hire dates aren't necessarily specific. Hey, and then we can have an open dialogue. me or my staff, depending on what it is. What can we do? How can we help you? But again, sometimes it's very clear. Let's say it's a nonprofit or something, they're doing an MOU for a grant. They know exactly what they're looking for. So it's we can walk through.
Right.
However, if it's something that's, I don't know what's going on, and Your Honor, I accept the fact that without communication, things become very difficult, right? Because my response or my analytical response is reduced to me and my staff, right? In this particular case, communication has been taken out. And in my opinion, Your Honor, Open Records Act doesn't require me to pick up the phone and have a conversation to someone or a constituent. It requires me to look at the four corners of the request and make my best response, and then invite a new Open Records Act and respond accordingly.
Okay. I have two more questions and then I'll let you guys follow up if I've messed anything up. One, I've heard some mention of a person by the name of Tashika, and you identified her as an IT person. Is she in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office IT, or is she county IT?
Honey, let me explain. So this email that was presented to me, I don't have a date with that, but it appears that once I realized it's PR stuff.
Well, it's just to help you with the date. I think it was represented that was around sometime in September of 23.
September. She was my IT director.
She worked for Fulton County District Attorney's Office.
Yes.
Okay.
However, in December, she now works for the county IT department. So wanted to be very clear on that. So she's a dual person.
Okay. The last question has to do with, there are some responses where the response to the Open Records Act was, we don't have any documents responsive to your request. And then I think I understood that, Ms. Monroe asked you, did you have any follow-up from the requester, Ms. Merchant? And you said you did not. So does it happen frequently that when you say, when you respond to an open records request and says no records, that you get a response? And I mean, generally, not from Ms. Merchant, but generally. By you, I mean the open records team. So in the cases, the answer is, if you specifically looking for a case number, right? I'm not going to hold you to you miss the last digits of your case number, right? Those are cases where I'm going to honestly, hey, that's my last resort. I don't have those records. What are you looking for? If you want an MAU for my subawardee contract, and I know you pick up the phone nonprofit, what are you looking for? Let me see. So in those particular cases, Your Honor, no, it doesn't happen often. But in the cases, given my staffing levels and workload, that's where, in my opinion, we look at the Open Records Act. I have 1,000 requests a year, or more than 1,000. 50 to 75 a month. In January, when these requests came in January, was a hot button issue. I did not have the capacity, right, to say, have a conversation. And if I did have a conversation, I'm not sure if it will yield any fruit in this particular instance. So I honestly, there's not a lot of do not response. I know in January, you want this particular contract, you want this MOU. Like when you want something specific, typically I can work with you to get it because you have a reason as to why you want it. When it's over broad, I have to pick up the phone. If you want a case file or good case, my rule is open and active litigation. Technically, I can say no. But if you're a civil attorney and you need this limited case because let's have a conversation with you, my ADA, to determine if there's something that you can expect. Is there something that you can do to get what you need and not necessarily impact my prosecution? So I don't have I have a few, and I recognize the name of the person that she presented to, that she referenced in her exhibit. Well, there are certain people who I don't know how to help them, but rest assured, my Open Records team, when you're looking for a document, I'm going to do anything and everything before I say, I don't have it. That's not my go-to. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ms. Merchant, it's your witness. Did you have any follow-up?
No, Judge, thank you.
Ms. Monroe?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Bond, you may be excused. Thank you. Okay. It is 12:30. But also knowing that we're going to lose Ms. Merchant at some point, I was thinking that we might continue if people need a comfort break as opposed to like a longer lunch break and go ahead and keep moving along with Ms. Miller. If that's okay with everybody?
I may have some good news.
Okay.
Based on his testimony, we don't need to call Ms. Miller or IT. He's answered the questions about that. So I don't think we need to call any other witnesses based on his testimony.
Okay. Ms. Monroe?
For this, if we get to damages, we'll need to do that.
I'm sorry, we're conferring. If you could just give
Sure.
a moment.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we do this? So I was going to give everybody a comfort break anyway, and it sounds like y'all need an opportunity to consult, right? So it is 12:33. Why don't we take a break until like 12:45, 12:50? And we'll come back and figure out where we're going next. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Today to provide some clarification.
Okay. Well, that's something we could actually accomplish. So let's do that.
Well, I'll make it easier, Your Honor. Our intention is to dismiss the county out of the lawsuit. So if that's the reason they need her testimony.
Look at y'all reasonably talking, working things out.
Yes.
Ms. Parkinson.
Yes, please do, Ms. Merchant. Good luck to you. Okay, so if Fulton County is dismissed, then that means the lone remaining defendants are the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and Fonnie Willis in her official capacity as the District Attorney of Fulton County.
Correct.
Okay. So is there any other evidence or witnesses you would call on the issue of the threshold issue of whether or not an Open Records Act violation occurred, as to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and or the actual District Attorney of Fulton County, Ms. Willis?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. So also just for
Other than Ms. Merchant.
right, understood. So and also to be clear, I am still in the process of finishing the order that I verbally gave to y'all, but am entering. My goal is that it will be entered today. And so just so that the record does not get confused, clearly I already verbally announced what my ruling was. Y'all knew what it was. To the extent that you're going to dismiss Fulton County, if you will wait and have it not entered until after I enter my order, not dismissing them, because otherwise the Court of Appeals will kill us all if this ends up there.
Yes. We wouldn't be dismissing them, but for the testimony that made it clear they did not have any involvement there.
Right, I understand. And again, my ruling, much as Ms. Monroe disagreed with it, was based on the pleading, such as they were at the time on the motion to dismiss standard. Okay. So I think where we've left it is there are no additional witnesses that we can call. I expect that what will happen is that we will reconvene. I'm going to issue a notice and it will be for a reconvening either on Monday the 30th or on Wednesday the 2nd. If it is the 30th, it would roll over into the 2nd, probably not the 1st, because I've got like my end of the quarter criminal calendar with like 90 positions.
No. Why didn't you, as an officer of this court, tell me? And that's not what the point is. The point is, you as an advocate, is you should have told me. I got a problem with you now. I got a problem with you now. I would suggest you don't say any more. Now you want to have it both ways. You can't do it. Both sides have an equal responsibility under the rules. It's a professional responsibility. All right, have a seat, sir. Thank you.
How fast things have changed. How fast things have changed. How fast things have changed.
Now I see you running, coming for my come up. Broke out all your shackles, turned it to some armor. Used to be the judge, but now you have no honor. To die with your pride is to live with all your karma. Now you understand.
Another night of fun. There's a lot of fun talks about.
All right. Anybody else have any other issues as to?
Fulton County has no problem coming in here and cuffing all of us, okay? Don't be an idiot.
How you trying to tell me about myself? You homeless, Ern. You don't even have a mirror to look at yourself.
Here. So I know you all about your principles. But can we please listen to Ern so we can get out of here? It's 4 cops on the other side of that door. You know if they come in here, they're gonna get your ass on a whole lot of other shit.
You lying ass bitch.
I knew it. Mama, I hate you, Will.
Don't you never come back to my house,
And I hope they blow your motherfucking ass to smithereens.
You better hope they do, bitch. You better hope they do.
This nigga kidnapped me.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! What are you, fucking nuts?
You thought